something amazing is happening. The deep state, the invisible government, is at last coming fully into the light. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Behind the ostensible government sits enthroned an invisible government owing no allegiance and acknowledging no responsibility to the people." To destroy this invisible government, to befoul the unholy alliance between corrupt business and corrupt politics is the first task of the statesmanship of today. The invisible government is the predatory capitalist corporatocracy, the crony capitalist corporatocracy, the league of robber barons and carpetbaggers and banksters. It controls the world while having no accountability to the people. Tony Benn said, "We are not just here to manage capitalism but to change society and to define its finer values." Capitalism, with its crude, repulsive, mercenary, predatory values now thinks it can change and manage society. Ben said, "If one meets a powerful person, ask them 5 questions. What power have you got? Where did you get it from? In whose interests do you exercise it? To whom are you accountable? And how can we get rid of you? If you cannot get rid of the people who govern you, you do not live in a democratic system. How can you vote out Elon Musk? No one voted for him. Yet he is now an active part of the American government. Democracy is dead. Forces from outside democracy are controlling democracy. The American revolutionaries said, 'No taxation without representation.' Why aren't the people represented in boardrooms? Why should Elon Musk get to decide taxation policy, infinitely favorable to him and his crooked ilk, and infinitely unfavorable to the people? By the way, if democracy is so great, why doesn't a single corporation on Earth operate as a democracy? Democracy is 100% banned from every corporatocracy, which ought to tell you everything you need to know about the elite's attitude to people power. You can't vote out CEOs. Why not? Shouldn't we, the people, be allowed to vote out anyone at all who stands opposed to people power and has power over the people? When 3 men have close to $1 trillion between them, how can anyone argue that this is not of absolute interest to democracy? In Propaganda, Edward Bernays wrote, "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, and our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. It is they who pull the wires that control the public mind. This invisible government is now as visible as it gets. It's the tech brothers, we've all heard of them. They're right in our face. These people have now massively intervened in the political process despite being unelected and unaccountable to the people. It was always understood that big business would stay in its own lane, but it has now smashed that unofficial treaty to smithereens. When the super rich actively interfere with politics, the politicians have an automatic right to interfere with big business, and ought to do so with gusto. Malignant corporations should be closed down and their CEOs jailed. That would soon end the power of the tech brothers and transform democracy. For democracy to be anything more than a charade, democracy must at last extend into the economic sphere and bring all of big business under the control of the people. While big business remains outside democracy, it can control democracy while being wholly unaccountable to democracy, thus rendering democracy farcical. Democracy will be real only when CEOs can be voted out and their extreme wealth subject to democratic confiscation, to fund public causes rather than antisocial, self-serving causes of the private elites, who manifestly despise the people. Tony Benn said, "The Labour Party has never been a socialist party, although there have always been socialists in it, a bit like Christians in the Church of England. Yes, Christianity has very few Christians, just as the left has very few leftists." Ben said, "This idea that politics is all about charisma and spin is rubbish. It is trust that matters. No one trusts politicians, but many people can certainly fall for the charisma and spin of populists pretending to be on the side of the people, while always being on the side of the super rich." Ben said, "If we can find the money to kill people, we can find the money to help people. Funny how we seem to be far better at the former. Because it's highly profitable. Ben said, it's the same each time with progress. First they ignore you, then they say you're mad, then dangerous, then there's a pause and then you can't find anyone who disagrees with you. You have to wait such a long time for that. Ben said, I'm not frightened about death. I don't know why, but I just feel that at a certain moment your switch is switched off, and that's it. And you can't do anything about it. Your switch is never switched off since it was never switched on. You are eternal, which is to say uncaused and uncreated, and there's nothing the tech bro mafia can do to change that, no matter how much they consider themselves gods with power over life and death, their life and your death. Don't be afraid of anyone. You are an immortal being. Stop worshipping the super rich. Down with the tech brothers.